current overall score to beat is 14. And joining me next is Phil. So, what do you think of this slow burn?
It's tense.
It's tense. It's also potentially very lucrative in terms of points, but yes, it's a challenging one, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
So, are you ready?
Yes.
Once more with confidence. Are you ready, Phil?
Yes.
We're looking for a city for your slow burn. This city is in Europe. In 1797, the city was captured by the French and subsequently placed under Austrian control. It is the birthplace of composer Antonio Vivaldi and also the painter Tintoretto. A winged lion has long been recognised as the emblem of this city.
A nation in mourning, a world forever changed. After 70 years on the throne, the UK's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, has died. Strength, determination and a deep sense of duty. Tributes and condolences from across the globe. And as a new day dawns in London, a new era begins with a new monarch, King Charles III.
This is SBS World News with Antoninas.
Good evening. It's a new day across the United Kingdom, the dawn of a new reign, as tens of millions of people mourn the loss of a queen, heralding change being felt the world over. Tributes continue to pour in for Queen Elizabeth II, who has died at her Scottish home Balmoral. Buckingham Palace confirmed her death early this morning, Australian time, bringing her 70-year reign to a peaceful end. Her eldest son spoke of his great sadness in his first statement as King Charles III. This is the view right now of the palace in the heart of London. Mourners continue to congregate outside the gates to pay tribute to the only monarch many have ever known. Our reporters are standing by in Balmoral, New York and Canberra tonight. We begin our coverage in Scotland to join our chief international correspondent, Ben Lewis. Ben, good evening to you. What's happening there this morning?
Good evening, Anton. It's just gone 9:30 in the morning here, and we've seen a steady stream of locals coming to the gates of Balmoral to leave flowers. People in this area considered the Queen to be somewhat of a local, so common was her presence in this region every summer. A short time ago, we saw what we believe was Prince Harry leaving the Balmoral estate. Other members of the royal family, all four of her children, are still there. We understand that later today, King Charles will leave Balmoral. He will head to London. He will meet with Prime Minister Liz Truss, and then he will address the nation. It will be the most important speech he probably ever gives in his life, summing up what the Queen meant to him, his family, Britain, the Commonwealth and the entire world. Queen Elizabeth II has passed away. She did her duty until her final moments. A sombre notice pinned to the gates of Buckingham Palace. The message short, its effect profound.
The Palace has just issued this statement. It says the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
The King and the Queen Consort remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow.
As the announcement was read, a rainbow appeared over the Queen's long-term residence. Outside, an outpouring of grief. The 96-year-old monarch, so widely respected for her 70 years of service.
It's crazy. I can't really believe it, to be honest. I know she's getting older, but it's one of them things you never believe is going to happen. It's quite upsetting, really. You know, just that feeling in your stomach, you don't really know what to say.
She's like a really remarkable figure. You know, she's been leader of this country for so many decades.
Just hours earlier, the royal family had rushed to the Queen's side at her Scottish home. Prince William driving with his uncles Prince Andrew and Prince Edward in the passenger seats. Prince Harry, who was visiting the UK with his wife, was alone when he pulled into Balmoral shortly after the Queen's death was announced. In a statement, the new King Charles III said, "We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world." The Queen had been seen just 2 days earlier, swearing in the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built.
The monarch saw 15 Prime Ministers during her reign, meeting with them weekly.
Everywhere I went, Her Majesty was respected, she was admired, she was revered, and we will miss her greatly.
We must always remember that she wasn't just our Queen, she was a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother.
Queen Elizabeth II will be remembered for her steadfastness, her commitment to public service, and for putting duty above all else. And it seems somehow appropriate that this is where the Queen spent her final days. She loved Scotland, she loved the Balmoral estate. She would come here every summer, first as Princess Elizabeth and then as Queen. It was a place where she could relax with her family. We've seen those photographs of her and the Duke of Edinburgh cooking barbecues. She used to go horseback riding and loved walking through the mountains. Locals here treated her as one of their own. Anton, Britain has been in somewhat of an identity crisis over the last decade, with the Scottish independence movement, troubles in Northern Ireland again, and of course Brexit. But the Queen was the thread that held this kingdom together. Today it feels like a very different place.
Thanks, Ben. That is Ben Lewis, beginning our coverage tonight on the many facets of the Queen's reign. Rare is the occasion that unites so many countries in grief. Peoples of different religions, systems of government and cultures all paying homage to Queen Elizabeth. Leaders from Chinese President Xi Jinping to Canada's Justin Trudeau offering their tributes.
Königin Elisabeth II ist tot.
As the news broke of the Queen's death, global coverage was swift and widespread.
La reine Elisabeth II est morte.
After 70 years at the helm of the Commonwealth, her formidable legacy remembered.
She was a steady figure over so many decades during times of joy and times of turbulent change.
The news catching the White House off guard.
Okay, so that's been confirmed. Okay, the royal family.
Within hours, US President Joe Biden was extending his condolences in person.
I just stopped by the British Embassy to sign the condolence book in her honor. I had the opportunity to meet her before she passed, and she was an incredibly gracious and decent woman.
Flags across the US are at half-mast and will stay that way until the Queen is buried. While in neighbouring Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who was one of the last world leaders to meet with the Queen, saluted her wisdom, compassion and warmth.
Canada is in mourning. She was one of my favourite people in the world, and I will miss her so.
Queen Elizabeth II.
A minute's silence at the United Nations Security Council. The Queen had visited the UN New York headquarters twice, more than 50 years apart.
She was a reassuring presence throughout decades of sweeping changes, including the decolonization of Africa and Asia and the evolution of the Commonwealth.
Come out to welcome her to New Zealand.
56 Commonwealth countries mourning the loss of a shared figurehead, an emotional jolt felt from Africa to the Pacific.
Young or old, there is no doubt that a chapter is closing today. And with that, we share our thanks for an incredible woman.
Dozens more world leaders honouring her on social media. France, Japan, Israel, Turkey among them. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi writing, she personified dignity and decency in public life, pained by her demise. In Fiji, another former colony, its leader describing her grace, courage and wisdom. Even in places where the legacy of colonialism is still raw, fond memories of the monarch. The Nigerian president remarking, the story of modern Nigeria will never be complete without a chapter on Queen Elizabeth II. Barbados is the world's youngest republic after it cut ties with the British monarchy in November last year.
Significant as that decision was, given the place Barbados has held in the British Empire for centuries, it did not in the least diminish the friendship between our two nations.
During her 70 years on the throne, war and conflict were never far away, and a constant theme in today's messages.
She herself contributed towards healing the wounds of war. Great Britain stretched out its hand to Germany towards reconciliation, and this hand of reconciliation was also the hand of the Queen.
But in an open letter to the newly appointed King Charles III, Russian President Vladimir Putin made no mention of war or politics, simply wishing His Majesty courage and perseverance in the face of this heavy, irreparable loss. While Chinese President Xi Jinping offered his sympathies to the royal family, noting in a statement the Queen was the first British monarch to visit China.
And Prue Lewan joins us now live from New York. Prue, as you were saying, there plenty of international reaction. What's the feeling been like in the US?
Anton, good evening to you. Perhaps no country on the planet has been so proud of its history of breaking with the British monarchy and of being a republic as is the United States of America. And yet, when the news came through earlier today of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the response was immediate. It was one of complete affection and admiration. Here in New York City, the Empire State Building has been bathed in purple and silver in honour of the Queen, and an image that the entire city, 8 million people, can see. In Washington, the flag lowered over Congress, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, saying that we have been given a masterclass in grace and strength, power and poise. US President Joe Biden has ordered the US flag at all American embassies to be lowered and stay that way for the next 10 days, a visual and a global statement to the world. Shortly after the attacks of 9/11, the Queen sent a message to New Yorkers. She said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." Around the world tonight and today and over the next 10 days, millions will be and are grieving because they have loved.
And Prue, we're noting tonight the Queen's reign spanned 15 British Prime Ministers, but she knew almost as many US presidents.
Anton, indeed she did. She knew 14 American presidents. How extraordinary, from Truman, Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Nixon. The list goes on, the Bushes, Obama, Trump, Biden. There are so many I've missed there. And it has been said for many of them, meeting the Queen, going to the palace, was not just a rite of passage, but this is remarkable for the president of a global superpower, some sort of vindication on the world stage. Indeed, today, Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady, said that having a sleepover,